Number 5, The Last Broadcast. This 1998 American horror film, written, produced, and directed by Stefan Avalos and Lance Wheeler, tells the story of a documentary filmmaker named David Lee and his investigation on the fact or fiction murders, in which got him convicted in a 1995 case, apparently with the murders of his team one night during an expedition to find the mythic Jersey Devil in the Jersey Pine Barrens. The film is shot mockumentary style and employs the found footage technique. The film is believed to be the first full-length feature film shot and edited entirely on consumer-level digital equipment. And on a budget too. I love this. I'm all here for it. Main character Lee seeks to discover the truth behind these killings while making his documentary. 4 men go to the Pine Barrens, where a psychic leads them to the apparent site. During the hunt, they broadcast a live show simultaneously via TV, internet, and amateur radio. They enter the Barrens, but only one emerges alive, as the others are brutally murdered.
The likely suspect would appear to be Stephen.
Oof, spooky. Seward, the only suspect, is then charged with the murder of his team. During his murder trial, Lee receives a box containing a damaged videotape reel, which he at first assumes is the tape from the team. With the murders caught on the tape, a blurred image of the real killer is seen, and is shocked to discover that the killer is the filmmaker himself, Lee. This is a great one. I really enjoyed this movie. It's low budget, young artists. It's a pretty good storyline too. Number 4, The Bay. Of course, if you like what we do here on Top 5 Scary, throw us a thumbs up down below or comment which one of these real-ish movies scared you the most. The Bay is a 2012 American mockumentary horror film directed by Barry Levinson and written by Michael Wallach. The movie's basically about a small town getting infected with a contaminated water source that 2 oceanographers discovered in the bay without saying anything. After investigating fish being eaten from the inside out, they realize that the culprit is this tongue-eating louse creature that looks like the bugs from like Starship Troopers. Yeah, really scary. The movie came out as a result of a documentary Levinson was asked to produce about real problems facing the Chesapeake Bay. Although Levinson chose to abandon the documentary upon learning that it was already being covered by a huge news network organization. Levinson instead decided to use all that research to produce this horror film, which he hoped would shed light on the issues facing Chesapeake Bay. As such, when promoting the film, he noted that more than 80% of the film is real and actually factual information. Also, 80% is so real that it had to wait to be released and cleared first. What? Yeah, this was like a real issue, hence the confusion around the found footage. Apparently this nuclear disaster monster giant isopod in the bay aren't real, but the small isopods filmed are very real. You see a tight shot of the isopod, Levinson said. That's not CGI, that's real. We just pulled that out of the Atlantic Ocean. The isopods do this really gruesome thing, which the bay does a great example of, is that they eat the fish from inside out. All that stuff is actually factual. A leaking nuclear reactor actually does have a runoff heading towards the Chesapeake Bay. Its quantities aren't great, but the fact that it's actually happening seems scary enough. The chicken farm runoff stuff is actually factual too. At the end of the day, yes, it's a movie, not a documentary, but it's infused with a lot of things that are really real. I think it adds to the nature of the piece, end quote. Hey, spoken like a true artist. And that's why the film has gotten so many great reviews. Give it a watch, very spooky, very well done. Number 3, the Poughkeepsie Tapes. Writer-director fam jam duo John Eric and Drew Dowdle are best known for their sinister yet impeccable found footage movies. Yeah, it's pretty gory and actually had to wait 10 years before being released due to the graphic footage on it. It's rumored that it was held for 10 years due to its contents and disturbing atmosphere, referring to it as a banned movie. It's likely that MGM felt audiences weren't really ready to see such graphic content. In an abandoned house in Poughkeepsie, New York, murder investigators uncover hundreds of tapes showing decades of a deranged killer's work. And in an all too realistic found footage mockumentary, the moments showing the killer POV are things of nightmares. Not gonna lie, this is like the goriest movie on our list today. But with scary movies, sometimes comes a little gore, you know? The Poughkeepsie Tapes plays out as a faux documentary following the discovery of a very large collection of VHS tapes created by said deranged psychopath, and the investigations that follow. The documentary is well shot and played out in a believable manner. Sometimes the acting is a little, yeah, this is really fake. And then sometimes it's like, okay, I'm gonna look up if that guy's a real cop. The feel of this movie is gore, gore, gore. If you're into like Saw type stuff and multiple victims and lots of popcorn syrup, this one's definitely for you. These tapes are only fictional, but there's a small catch. According to Marist College, the Poughkeepsie Tapes may be based on an actual event. A killer named Kendall Francois killed 8 to 10 people in Poughkeepsie in the late 90s, but didn't videotape the murders. There's heavy debate in the film industry on which movies are depicting actual cases similar to actual reports, and acts that are totally staged and made up. Number 2, The Quiet Ones. The Quiet Ones is a 2014 British supernatural horror film directed by John Pogue, based on a very real 1972 parapsychology experience called the Philip Experiment, conducted in Toronto. It stars Jared Harris as a UFT professor attempting to prove that poltergeists are actually real manifestations of the human psyche and not actually supernatural beings. The movie is very scary, no doubt about it. Jared Harris is amazing, as always, but the real story behind it is actually way more terrifying. The professors of mathematics, science, and psychology created a fictitious character through an attempt to communicate with said fictitious entity through a controlled seance. It was the real deal. The character created and agreed upon was named Philip during the test. His fictional backstory coincided with real historic events and places, but with multiple contradictions and errors. They said he was born in 1624 in England, had an early military career, knighted by 16, in the English Civil War, and eventually dying at the age of 30. The group was seated around a table via a lecture, with initial seances yielding no contact, no communication, and no phenomenon. The professors then dimmed the lights, fully leaned into the seance, changing the environment. Participants and students then began feeling a presence. Lots of table vibrations, breezes, unexplained voices, and sounds which matched responses to Philip's life. Audio and video and witness accounts documented the paranormal event, but Philip never actually appeared. Yo, this actually happened, like down the street from us. This is terrifying. And number 1, Ghostwatch 1992. First broadcast on BBC One Halloween night 1992. Written by Stephen Volk and directed by Leslie Manning, the drama was produced for an actual BBC anthology series. Despite having been recorded only weeks in advance, the narrative was presented as a live television broadcast. During and following its first and only UK television broadcast, the show resulted in an estimated 1 million separate phone calls to the BBC that night, dealing with a mixture of complaints and praise for the program's bizarre release. Yeah, Ghostwatch has never been repeated on UK television. It's been replayed on stations such as the Canadian channel Scream for Halloween once in 2004, and the Belgian channel Canvas in 2008. The hour-and-a-half event was shot documentary style and appeared as part of the BBC. It involved actual BBC reporters performing a live on-air investigation of a so-called haunted house in London in which demonic poltergeists activity was taking place. Through found footage and interviews with family living there, they discovered the existence of a violent ghost nicknamed Pipes, a nickname from their kids. Footage actually showed the police arriving at Fox Hill Drive, and the spirit even dragged a BBC host behind a door. Yeah, that is horrifying. Imagine watching your weekly hosts on like a reliable television network that's censored and archived, and then all of a sudden the host just gets yanked up the wall by a supposed demon live on TV.
In at number 5, we have Ava in Avas Possession. Avas Possession debuted at the Dead by Dawn Horror Film Festival in 2015 and centers around a young woman named Ava that has recently been possessed and successfully exorcised, but now she must learn how to put her life back together. The film begins with a priest successfully completing an exorcism on Ava, who is stunned to find out that she has spent the last 28 days possessed by the demon Nafula. This demon was based on a natural real-life demon by the name of Vapula, who is a powerful Great Duke of Hell that commands 36 legions of demons and is depicted as a griffin-winged lion. This demon is a fallen angel and 60th of the 72 spirits of Solomon and has skills in philosophy, mechanics, and sciences. Vapula, also known as Nafula, is mentioned in many readings throughout history, especially in the world of demonology, magic, and witchcraft. After Ava's exorcism, she went from bad to worse when her actions brought her to cause serious emotional and physical damage, which resulted in losing her job, friends, boyfriends, and potential jail time. Her family urged Ava to accept a plea deal that would spare her jail time or committed to a facility for troubled ex-possessed people if she attended a rehabilitation program for the recently exorcised. Ava began attending this program, and it was urged that she took it seriously. If she didn't, it was very likely the demon would return to her and she would become possessed once again. At a group meeting in the facility, Ava meets Hazel, a fellow ex-possessed person that wants her demon to return since she enjoyed its presence and felt it was special for both of them. While Ava is trying to remember her missing 28 days, she discovers bloodstains on her floor and is led to a clue where she soon finds out that when the demon possessed her, she had murdered someone, and she is just constantly thinking what she did to become a target of Nafula. After finishing the program, she soon starts to get her life back together until Ava discovers some old files revealing that her mother has also been previously possessed by the same demon, resulting in her finding out their bloodline is prone to possessions. Fun times.
And number 4, Man Bites Dog. Man Bites Dog is a 1992 Belgian violent comedy crime mockumentary written, produced, and directed by Remy Belval, André Bonzal, and Benoit Poulvard. I tried, sorry. Who are also the film's co-editors, cinematographers, and lead actor. The film received the André Cavins Award for the best film by the Belgian Film Critics Association, and since its release, the picture has become a cult classic, and received a rare NC-17 rating for its release in the US. Yeah, I'd up that rating to a rated R if it was me. After watching bits and pieces, I can't even say that without getting chills. Look, it's pretty disturbing stuff. Shot in black and white, it's gory, like very gory. Like if Tarantino made a gory snuff film. Yeah, I actually can't even put a clip into this because the found footage parts are way too disturbing. The film follows a crew of filmmakers following a serial killer, recording his horrific crimes for a documentary they are producing. At first though, dispassionate observers, they find themselves increasingly caught up in the chaotic and nihilistic violence, eventually becoming accomplices themselves. Ben, a witty, charismatic, and an easily enraged sadistic serial killer, takes the filmmakers and the crew to witness and watch the murders, explaining why, how, and when he chooses his victims. The viewer witnesses this grisly killings and crimes in graphic detail. The camera crew becomes more and more involved with the murders and even help Ben. During filming, 2 of Ben's crews are killed by Italian mobsters, and Ben and his crew have fun taking turns as they shoot the rival crew members while recording the entire process. Like I said, it's gory. Tons more gruesome killings, and Ben is finally arrested, but then escapes. At this point, someone takes revenge on Ben, and he finds his girlfriend and family all disturbingly murdered in revenge. The camera crew and Ben are all ambushed and shot by the rival mobsters. After the camera falls, it keeps running, and the film ends with the death and of the fleeing of the suspects. Only watch this film if you can stomach disturbing scenes, trust me. It's pretty visual. Number 3, Creep. Creep is a 2014 American found footage psychological horror directed by Patrick Bryce and is filmed as found footage and does the genre well. Bryce portrays a videographer assigned to record an eccentric client insisting on filming numerous videos for his future unborn kid. Creep was inspired by Bryce's experiences on Craigslist. Bryce and lead actor Duplass refined the film's story during filming, which resulted in multiple versions of each scene and several alternate scenarios and endings. Struggling videographer Aaron accepts an assignment to travel to a remote cabin where he meets his client Joseph, who explains he has an inoperable brain tumor and is expected to die before his pregnant wife gives birth. With this, he wishes to have Aaron record a video diary for his unborn child, and throughout the videos, Joseph demonstrates behavior that makes Aaron a little uneasy, which leads in Joseph confessing some pretty heinous stuff to him. As an increasingly freaked out Aaron intercepts a phone call from Angela, who's actually Joseph's sister, and warns Aaron to escape. Joseph then attempts to stop Aaron, leading to with Aaron escaping. Then, at home, Aaron starts receiving items in the mail from Joseph, including a recording of Joseph digging a grave. Creepy. A DVD is then sent to Aaron offering an apology in a public setting, which Joseph then kills him from behind with an axe. Spoiler alert, Joseph, now calling himself Bill, later receives a phone call from his newest target as he places a DVD of Aaron's murder alongside recordings of his past victims. That's scary. Yeah, I saw a play about a gruesome Craigslist ad once. They can get pretty disturbing. The film is widely known as one of Netflix's best found footage genre movies, and there's some great jump scares in there for you. Check it out yourselves. Number 2. UFO Abduction, the McPherson Tape. UFO Abduction, also known as the McPherson Tapes, is a 1989 American found footage sci-fi horror film written, produced, and directed by Dean Elialto. The film focuses on a family who are being terrorized by extraterrestrials during a birthday celebration. The late 80s and the early 90s were ravished by an overflow of popular paranormal genre movies and TV such as The X-Files and Unsolved Mysteries. The film begins with a brief introduction that proposes the film as legitimate and one of the strongest pieces of evidence for ETs yet. On October 8, 1983, the Van Hees family gathers in Connecticut woods to celebrate 5-year-old sister's birthday. One of the brothers uses his handheld camera to record the night's events. The evening passes relatively eventful as the family celebrates. However, after a small power outage, the brothers walk to the neighbors to investigate, and the three eventually come across an extraterrestrial spaceship landed in the woods and are shocked to see 3 small aliens walking around.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Holy sh**. Holy.
Yeah, that's creepy. They flee in a panic after the aliens notice them. Yeah, I would too if I saw them just walking around the forest. They return to the house and load shotguns, but are divided on whether they should remain in the house or leave. Classic horror movie move. After a while, they assume the visitors have left, but notice all their watches have stopped. They conclude the party, but are terrified as the aliens attempt to enter the house through the windows and chimney. Eric, one of the brothers, shoots and brings an alien's body inside the place and puts it in the back room. After securing the house once more and turning up the radio to block out the voices, the others finally convince Michael, another brother, to put down his camera and resume their card game. From its position across the room, the recording camera glitches and records what looks like 3 small gray aliens emerging from the back room. The tape ends as the aliens close in on the family. The film claims that the Van Hees' whereabouts are still unknown and that viewers should contact the producers if they have any information. Look, I'm the guy who wears the tinfoil hats. This is pretty good. I liked it. The footage from the woods, the small creatures, the Project Blue Book warning at the beginning of the film. It's a Sci-Fiers Friday night. Great film, and short, only an hour. And coming in at the number 1 spot, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a 2003 American horror film starring Jessica Biel and R. Lee Ermey. Its plot we're probably all familiar with if we've seen the numerous takes on this classic movie. It follows a group of young adults traveling through Texas who encounter Leatherface and his murderous family, a remake of Tobe Hooper's 1974 film and the 5th of the franchise. Erin and her boyfriend and friends are on their way to a Lynyrd Skynyrd concert in Texas. While driving through Texas, the group picks up a severely traumatized hitchhiker walking in the middle of the road. After they talk with the hitchhiker, she takes her own life with a concealed pistol. The group contacts police where they are led to an old plantation house where Thomas Hewitt is waiting, also known as Leatherface. Erin escapes and heads towards the woods, but Leatherface, armed with his chainsaw, follows each of the concert-driven friends one by one in an all-out slasher gore fest. Yeah, I watched this movie when I was 11 years old. No wonder I can't sleep at night. Erin escapes into the woods with Leatherface chasing close behind her and her friends, but she eventually injures him and halts the pursuit. Leatherface suddenly appears in the road and slashes the car with his chainsaw, but Erin manages to escape. 2 days later, 2 investigating officers are killed by Leatherface while doing a crime scene investigation of the Hewitt home, and the narrator states that this case still remains open.
Come on back here, follow me.
Yeah, that's absolutely terrifying, alright? Seems like this franchise was loosely based around a cannibalistic family in the South and actual evidence, case, and trial of Ed Gein. Number 5, the Blair Witch Project. I remember seeing this when I was like 10, and I'm not gonna lie, it kind of scared the shit out of me. It still does. It tripped me out because like back then my parents were like, oh, don't worry honey, this is made up, after like every scary movie we watched. But this time they were like, was that real? You know, my dad just sat there quiet thinking. I was scared. Because the whole production apparently did such an amazing job from top to tail of its release, making the audience still feel like it really happened. The Blair Witch Project is probably the most famous found footage movie ever made. The campaign tactic was that the viewers were told through missing persons posters and that the characters were missing while researching in the woods for this mythical Blair Witch. Their IMDb page even listed the actors as missing and presumed deceased in the first year of the film's release. Even the film's website contained actors posing as investigators giving testimonies about their evidence. They even shared childhood photos of the three leads to add a sense of realism. By August 1999, the website had received 160 million hits, and the movie went from a flop at midnight to the top worldwide. During screenings, the filmmakers made advertising efforts to promote the events in the film as factual, including the distribution of flyers at all of the film festivals such as Sundance and Cannes, asking viewers to come forward with any information about the missing students. All the actors making their feature film debuts as well were described as missing and presumed dead. The actors' parents even started receiving condolence calls and sympathy letters. The actors got to witness the movie blow up, but they weren't even invited to the screenings due to the publicity. Imagine not being able to go see your own premiere, or even really celebrate your huge role in this huge successful movie. It's kind of sad for the actors, don't you think? I think it is.
In at number 4 we have Pazuzu. Pazuzu is a fictional character who is the main demon in the Exorcist horror novels and film series created by William Peter Blatty. The character of this demon was derived from Assyrian Babylonian mythology, where the mythic Pazuzu was considered the king of the demons of the wind and the son of the god Hambi. He also represents the southwestern wind, the bearer of storms and drought. This demon is known to bring famine during dry seasons and excessive water during the rainy season, and is considered to be an evil spirit by all. Pazuzu is often depicted as a combination of diverse animal and human parts. He has the body of a man, the head of a lion or dog, talons of an eagle, 2 pairs of wings, and a scorpion's tail. Pazuzu first appeared in the Exorcist novel in 1971. The novel is about a 12-year-old girl, Regan McNeil, that gets possessed by a demon. The demon is later revealed to be Pazuzu. Even though they never state that he is the demon, 2 references were made about this statue, which was uncovered by Father Lancaster Merrin in northern Iraq. After Regan's mother worries about her daughter being possessed, 2 priests, Merrin and Harris, arrive at their house to perform an exorcism on Regan to force the demon out of her body, but in their struggle to free Regan from Pazuzu, both priests die. 2 years after the novel was published, The Exorcist was released in theaters as a motion picture. In the second installment of The Exorcist, Pazuzu is named as the demon and returns to haunt Regan. The demon is prevalent in each and every movie released. In the 4th Exorcist, Pazuzu was actually shown in his first encounter with Father Merrin in Africa. After the movies, The Exorcist became a television series, and Pazuzu continued to pursue Regan and possessed and killed her daughter. After killing Casey, the demon is able to possess Regan again and is almost able to take complete control of her mind. With the help from a priest, Regan tries to fight back against Pazuzu, and the demon is successfully exorcised from Regan's body. William Peter Blatty's creation of Pazuzu and the Exorcist was based on heavily reported series of events from 1949. Fun fact, there is a true crime case involving a man named John Alexander Lawson that was a self-proclaimed Satanist and demonology lover. He was inspired by the famous demon Pazuzu and changed his name to Pazuzu to pay homage to the demon reference in the movie The Exorcist. In at number 3 we have The Taking of Deborah Logan. The movie The Taking of Deborah Logan is a 2014 American found footage supernatural horror film. It tells the story of a documentary crew making a film about Alzheimer's patients who uncover something sinister while documenting a woman who has the disease. The filmmakers and writers did not base this movie and characters on real life. Deborah Logan is a fictional demon, but the most terrifying nonetheless. Though in the beginning they tried to make it appear as a real person, this film is about a team of students, Maya, Gavin and Louie, who to create a documentary about a woman named Deborah Logan, an elderly woman who has Alzheimer's disease. As the film crew records her daily life, Deborah starts to exhibit increasingly bizarre behavior, but her physician believed this is normal for someone with an aggressive form of Alzheimer's. The cameraman, Lewis, begins to notice that her actions defy normal explanation and believe that something supernatural is going on. Things grow more tense after the group notice that they have a recording of Deborah of her talking in French, talking about snakes and sacrifices, and her behavior becomes so extreme that she is hospitalized. Deborah is possessed by Henry Desjardins, who had disappeared after a series of cannibalistic ritualized murders of 4 girls. If you want to find out more about this possession, you should watch the movie. There is no confirmed ending, and that is the most terrifying part of this demonic movie. Even though it's not based on true events, it really makes you feel like it is. It was voted 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, and Ain't It Cool News called it found footage done right and stated that it's one of the most effective entries in the popular subgenre of found footage horror. Coming in at number 2, Dybbuk, The Possession. The Possession is a 2012 supernatural horror thriller based on an article written by Leslie Goldstein called Jinx in a Box, and the story that was created by Kevin Mannis. In 2003, writer and furniture refinishing business owner Kevin Mannis purchased a cabinet from a yard sale and claimed it was haunted by a Dybbuk, a concept from Jewish mythology. The word Dybbuk comes from the Hebrew word evil. The term appears in a number of 16th century writings and is a malicious possessing spirit believed to be the dislocated soul of a dead person. It supposedly leaves the host body once it has accomplished accomplished its goal, or after being exorcised. The box gained notoriety when Kevin auctioned it off on eBay, including the story claiming that the cabinet was previously owned by a survivor of the Holocaust in Poland, who said it contained the malicious spirit of a dybbuk, and that the box had paranormal powers and was responsible for this bad luck and nightmares. This box went through a few hands before being sold to Jason Haxton for $280. The museum curator and collector of religious paraphernalia began to research the source of the box and launched a website about it called dybbukbox.com that reportedly received hundreds of thousands of hits and created what's been described as an internet legend. In 2004, Jason sold the rights to the story to a Hollywood production company, and that created the 2012 release of The Possession. The movie tells the story of this so-called demon box, when a dad begins to witness his young daughter acting strangely following the purchase of an antique wooden box with Hebrew markings on it at a yard sale. The little girl became more and more obsessed with this box, and her behavior becomes increasingly erratic and alarming, ultimately leading to the girl becoming possessed by the demon haunting the box. In 2021, Kevin Mannis came out and told Input magazine that the Dybbuk box story was entirely fictional, that he came up with it. And finally, in at number 1, we have The Exorcism of Annelise Michel. Anna Elisabeth Annelise Michel was a German woman who underwent 67 Catholic exorcisms over the span of a year, and her story inspired the 2005 film The Exorcism of Emily Rose, the award-winning 2006 film Requiem, and the 2011 film Annelise, The Exorcist Tapes. When Annelise was 16, she began to experience seizures and was diagnosed with psychosis caused by temporal lobe epilepsy. Shortly after, she was also diagnosed with depression and was treated by a psychiatric hospital. By the time she was 20, she began to hear voices telling her that she was damned and would rot in hell, and began to hallucinate while she was praying. Her conditions began to worsen, was depressive, and put on different types of medication. After 5 years on psychiatric medication failed to improve her, Annelise and her family believed she was possessed by a demon. As a result, the family reached out to the Catholic Church for an exorcism. While rejected at first, 2 priests got permission from the local bishop in 1975. The priest believed Annelise was in fact possessed by a powerful demon from hell, and knew they needed to do anything they could to force this creature out of the girl's body. The priest began conducting exorcism sessions, but through all of this she stopped eating food and passed away due to malnourishment and dehydration after a total of 67 exorcism sessions. The story of Annelise is still told by many to this day, and it's believed to be one of the most real and powerful stories of demon possession in history.